Okay, let's unpack this. We're jumping right into a really fascinating standoff brewing in Detroit. Feels like a high-stakes clash, almost like breaking news Detroit steel standoff, you could call it. Puts the future of this iconic American city, well, squarely in the spotlight. We're going to do a deep dive here into these competing priorities, and I'm really eager to explore all the critical details to get you, our listeners, truly well informed on this one.
Absolutely. And what's really at stake here, it isn't just another political headline.
What?
This situation, it cuts right to the economic heart of a historic American city, a city that's been working relentlessly, really, to redefine itself after decades of, well, industrial change. It's fundamentally about how national policy can either empower or maybe inadvertently undermine local resurgence efforts.
Right. So on one side of this equation, you have former President Donald Trump. Our sources show he's pushing hard for a significant surge in national steel production. And his rationale seems pretty clear. It's about bolstering national security, reducing reliance on foreign supply chains.
Which is critical, especially when you think about defense infrastructure, right? And vital manufacturing, not just cars.
Exactly. And creating jobs, on a broad scale, trying to reignite a sector that has, well, undeniably struggled against global competition.
Yeah, and that struggle, it's important context. When we talk about global competition, we're often looking at producers, say, in other countries who benefit from lower labor costs or maybe less stringent environmental regulations.
Makes it tough for U.S. producers.
Incredibly challenging, yeah. Especially competing purely on price.
Yeah.
So Trump's vision, at least as presented in the sources we looked at, it really prioritizes reshoring these critical industries.
Yeah.
He seems to view domestic steel as a kind of strategic resource for a robust, self-reliant U.S. economy, particularly in sectors like automotive and construction keep demanding more material.
Okay. But then you've got Michigan Governor Gretchen Carney, and she's taking a very firm, almost protective stance for Detroit's local economy.
Yeah.
She's apparently spent years cultivating a very specific vision for Detroit's rebirth, one that emphasizes, localized growth. And our sources indicate she's actively scrutinizing and, in some cases, even blocking major steel deals that would benefit large national corporations.
If they potentially sideline the smaller player.
Exactly, if it means potentially sidelining smaller, local Detroit manufacturers.
And that brings up a really critical question, doesn't it? How do you reconcile these expansive national economic priorities with the highly specific needs on the ground locally? Carney's concern, based on what we've seen, isn't just about protecting, generic local businesses. It seems to be about preserving Detroit's unique skilled labor force and ensuring the city's own investments in, say, niche or specialized manufacturing aren't undermined.
So the worry is that a big influx of national steel production
Right. Well, it might create jobs nationally.
could, in her view, inadvertently crowd out Detroit's existing local businesses and their suppliers.
Precisely. Diverting vital opportunities away from the city's own efforts to rebuild on its own terms. It sounds like she wants local businesses to get the first shot, to really cement Detroit's own economic recovery path.
Okay, so on one hand, Trump's advocating for this powerful national industrial base, strengthen the whole country, strategic independence, and on the other, Carney's fighting for a very localized economic model, making sure Detroit isn't just like a cog in some national machine, but a vibrant, self-directed economic center.
Yeah.
It really highlights that fundamental tension, doesn't it? Macro policy versus ground-level realities.
It really does. And Detroit, despite its incredibly rich history as a global leader in manufacturing, especially cars and steel, it's undeniably faced huge challenges. The collapse of its traditional industrial base hit hard.
For sure.
And while the city has diversified into sectors like tech and entertainment, manufacturing, particularly steel and related industries, it remains absolutely core to its economic revival. The historical context here is just key. After decades of decline, Detroit isn't looking for a handout. It seems like they're looking for the chance to redefine their industrial future, but on their own terms.
Yeah, you can almost feel that pressure on Detroit's manufacturing sector right now. We saw mentions, for instance, of a small fabrication shop, family-owned, 3 generations, just starting to land consistent local contracts, getting back on its feet. And now they're facing this uncertain future because of how these larger steel deals might shake out.
That's tough.
And Carney has been really clear, according to our sources. Detroit won't just passively accept national policies that threaten its homegrown industries. Her resistance, it kind of reflects a broader collision we're seeing elsewhere too, right? Federal economic goals clashing with the deeply specific, evolving needs of cities. Cities trying to forge their own paths after these big industrial shifts.
And what becomes strikingly clear, reading through the materials, is the profound uncertainty this whole standoff creates. For countless workers, for business owners in Detroit, it's huge.
Hmm.
I mean, if Trump's broader national plan fully succeeds, Detroit might indeed see an infusion of new steel-related jobs, maybe larger industrial presences. That's possible.
But the potential cost.
Exactly. The potential cost could be the erosion of its smaller, more localized businesses, the ones that have really been the bedrock of its recent recovery efforts. Conversely, if Carney's steadfast resistance prevails, well, Detroit retains more control over its localized growth. But then it could potentially miss out on larger national investments that might accelerate certain parts of its economy. This really is a profound question about the future direction of American manufacturing, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And this brings us back to you, the listener. When you consider that push for national steel growth, driven by goals like national security, reducing foreign reliance, creating jobs, reigniting a struggling sector, versus Governor Carney's determined fight for Detroit's local economy, protecting local businesses and workers, ensuring the city rebuilds on its own terms, it just lays bare some fundamental questions about economic recovery, you know?
It really does. This whole standoff, it prompts us to consider how cities like Detroit can best achieve a lasting recovery. Is it primarily through broad national policies and sort of top-down directives? Or is it by championing a highly localized, community-driven resurgence? It's that dynamic tension again. National priorities meeting very specific ground-level needs, and it directly impacts communities trying to redefine their future after periods of industrial decline.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, if you were making the call, what is the right balance? How do you weigh those national industry goals against the unique, deeply specific needs of a city like Detroit? How do you make sure its distinct journey of revitalization isn't sort of overshadowed by a broader agenda?
Yeah, and maybe this raises a critical point for future policy, too. Is there a way to foster national industrial strength without inadvertently stifling the very localized ingenuity and recovery efforts happening on the ground in places exactly like Detroit?
A fascinating point to consider, and definitely something we'll keep thinking about, and we hope you do too.
Yes, thanks for watching. Stay updated with Global Scope 360. Thank you so much. Subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon.